Welcome. We're live, Young Jerks. Got a special show tonight. Going to be jumping around a lot of topics, a lot of information tonight. One thing we want to make sure that everyone is aware of following the Uncle Turtle Boy, the uncle, the daddy. He's got a lot of nicknames. He says fundraising for Karen Reed is important. I got a sign of that today. So we're going to start doing a lot more fundraising on the show. We did it once. We raised some good money. It was very exciting. So again, tonight, we're going to say that 50% of all our donations tonight on the Cash App and Venmo are going to go to the Karen Reed Defense Fund. A lot is happening on the case. ABC News, confrontations outside D&E Pizza. We may talk about that tonight. We're definitely going to be taking your phone calls, instant feedback. This is going to be a cannabis show tonight. We're going to be exposing a lot of corruption and fraud in cannabis tonight with a guest, and even some of the current events I just want to get to tonight. We will be taking phone calls, but if you want to call in about Karen Reed, you're going to be welcome to do so. If you want to leave instant feedback, I may ask this guest about what he thinks. He's up in Vermont, so he may not know much about what's going on, but I think he knows Turtle Boy, so I'm going to ask him about that too. But there's so much going on. Someone who's been a guest on the show, a friend of the show, who has, more importantly than any of that, the personal relationship, is the person that's been helping workers in Massachusetts, the cannabis workers that we've been talking about, the family of Lorna McMurray. For us, this year has been about a couple of things, and the biggest one is the Lorna McMurray story. This woman who died 27 years old at the True Leaf cultivation site, and she shouldn't have died there. It shouldn't have happened that way. And it's a story that we've been covering for years, and no one paid attention. No one did anything. We talked to OSHA before anyone else did about the cannabis worker health and safety issue. And then 27-year-old, we found out, passed away at a True Leaf cultivation site in Massachusetts. And we've been running with that story. We've been working with the family. We love the family, Laura and Alicia Nicole, and just all the friends and family. And they've been on the show. You've heard them on the show. And the one person in power that seemed to actually give a shit about helping the workers. And for folks that don't know, I know we have a lot of new listeners, and maybe some of you don't know this history of the show, but what the issue is in the cannabis space is that you have large industrial industry, and there's really no oversight, and there's a lot of dangers, and there's a lot of risks, and there's so many different risks we could get into. But one of the biggest ones that we find is the respiratory issue, is that these places are old mill houses, often, reconverted, and they have mold and mildew and dust and cannabis particle everywhere. And people, when it's on that large scale, where you have 10,000 plants, when you have that much material, when you're going through that much every day, people get illnesses. And the number one seems to be respiratory, but there's also a thing with rashes that people get. And I know a lot of home cultivators or smaller cultivators will say, well, I've been growing cannabis for years and that never happened to me. Well, it could be for a number of reasons. Number one, it could be it doesn't affect you. Number one, your biology. But mostly it's you haven't been in that kind of scale. That's the real issue. And we think it might be an allergy. We don't even know. The Cannabis Control Commission has done nothing to find out. They've done nothing to investigate it. They've had a 2-year investigation open on this death. OSHA, the federal government, who isn't known to act very quickly, has already not only fined the company, they closed the appeal process with the company. This was over a year ago. And now we're coming up on the 2-year anniversary of Lorna's death. 27 years old, didn't have to die. And Cannabis Control Commission still hasn't released their investigation. OSHA closed the investigation. OSHA has completed it. OSHA fined the company. OSHA found the company at fault. Cannabis Control Commission, nothing. Not a word. Not any information at all. The only one who brought it up, the only one who was trying to find out what was going on was this woman right here, the chair of the Cannabis Control Commission, who's now suspended. The only one who's asked for accountability on the testing issue, the testing frauds that we talked about on this show. We've also exposed a clear-cut testing fraud at True Leaf, where a husband grew the cannabis, the wife was the testing company. Total illegal from go. We have all the documentation. We showed you the law they broke. Nothing. They don't respond to our FOIA requests. Grant Smith isn't the only one that they're not responding to. They're not responding to us either. So this Cannabis Control Commission is acting recklessly. They don't care about the family of Lorna McMurray. They don't care about workers. They don't care that they're, basically holding reporters like myself hostage for information from them. And this woman, Shannon O'Brien, the chair, stood up. She stood up for workers, and now she's suspended, and we don't know why. Well, I have a lot of reasons why I think I know what's going on. And I'm kind of gagged because Chair O'Brien doesn't want me to speak on it. She's not talking to me right now, but people aren't going to believe she's not talking to me. So when I say something that I know, which isn't coming from Shannon O'Brien, people don't believe that. So that's an issue for me right now, because I do want to support Shannon O'Brien. I want to support workers as well. So there's been so much going on here. We're going to talk about that tonight. And we're going to have this great guest, Caleb Teske, on. He's going to talk a lot too. We're going to talk about Wendy Murphy's son, how she tried to cancel both of us. And again, Karen Reed, 50% of all donations tonight are going to the Karen Reed Defense Fund. So let's just read Shannon O'Brien's statement that she gave to the Boston Globe on Friday. In response to Senator Moore, who we're going to discuss as well, who we've been corresponding. He's also been on the show. We gave him an award this year. And we gave both Shannon O'Brien and Senator Moore, awards at our awards event. O'Brien hasn't, been able to accept it yet. We're hoping to meet her in person and give it to her. But we actually awarded them both awards at our Cannabis Workers Awards, because we feel like they were both trying for workers. And he released a statement about the dysfunction and what's going on at the Cannabis Control Commission, and pushing a bill that we're going to talk about in a second. But basically, in a prepared statement O'Brien released Friday, responding to Senator Moore's letter, O'Brien said she accepted the job as chair of the Cannabis Control Commission with her eyes wide open, knowing that the body was dysfunctional. This is what I love about Shannon O'Brien. She's telling the truth. We're going to go to the new chair who doesn't tell the truth in public. But let's listen to more of the truth from Shannon O'Brien. For over 2 years, it has become well known that the commission is an agency riddled with internal discord, lack of accountability, and infighting, O'Brien said. Because of a lack of strong leadership, the CCC has been failing to meet the needs of rapidly expanding legal cannabis industry. Further, and maybe more troubling, it was less clear that the agency was failing in one of its central responsibilities, which is promoting access to a lucrative industry for persons who have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, as well as other targeted groups such as persons of color, LGBTQ, disabled, women, and veterans. And I'll also add myself, cannabis workers, which she spoke up for. She was the first one to bring up Lorna McMurray's name. She was the first one to be honest with the media and say, my executive director didn't let me know about Lorna McMurray. She's the only one who talks to us. She's the only one. So now she's suspended. Do you think that's a coincidence? It seems like the executive director doesn't want leadership at the CCC. And who suspended her was the treasurer of Massachusetts, who appointed her, Deb Goldberg. And since this has happened, even before it happened, because we knew this was coming, a number of workers, union reps from UFCW, I believe Mascosh, including them, and a lot of workers, and even the mother of Lorna McMurray, contacted the treasurer, calling that office and asking them to keep Shannon O'Brien on this week. Now, again, we're going to have Caleb Teske, this guy, up in a few minutes. He's waiting patiently, watching everything that we're doing in the green room. Caleb, they tried to cancel him The last show he came on, it was a shitstorm, and he answered every question for like 2 hours, and he's not canceled. He's not only that, he's doing a lot of investigations, and I think that's why people try to cancel him. I think that's what you see a lot of times is when people are exposing shit like a Turtle Boy or Caleb Teske or Shannon O'Brien. All of a sudden, all kinds of complaints, stuff that people didn't care about when they thought you were their friend. But once you start criticizing them, so here's the new Cannabis Control Commission chair that replaced the awesome Cannabis Control chair, Shannon O'Brien. This is who we got now. This is Ava Concepcion. So after this hearing, where we find out Shannon O'Brien's been suspended, and we know that the state Senate is out for blood, and they've got a number of issues with the Cannabis Control Commission, and that doesn't even include the issues that we brought up tonight that we're now talking to the senator about. So the State House is paying attention. This is the biggest scandal ever at the Cannabis Control Commission. And that's saying a lot because they've had a lot, including the Lorna McMurray stuff. And this is the new chairwoman, Ava, who yesterday they did a little coup d'etat. They didn't want Shannon O'Brien picking the successor, so they had a little fight in public. And they had to show that this is what it's really about. It's about Sean Collins dividing and conquering his Cannabis Control Commission so he can install the puppets. And the puppets say the right things. The puppets don't bring up the issues on testing. The puppets don't bring up the issues on workers. The puppets don't call us. The puppets aren't. Here's the puppet. I think it's really an unfortunate distraction, she said. This is so significant. There's been so much work. We talk about the staff because I'm tired, and our other commissioners have been putting in a lot of hours. But the staff has been really incredible in terms of just getting above and beyond. Let me just say something. I guarantee I put on more hours than any of those folks. And that's not what I lead with every night. And that's what I would never friggin' lead with in a crisis. You're in a friggin' crisis and you're leading with our staff is awesome. Your staff has not released the report, the investigation over 2 years old. The company that you were investigating, True Leaf, has left the state because we did the investigation for you. You're calling our people trying to get phone numbers for people that you should have talked to 2 years ago. Your staff sucks. Stop bullshitting. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that you're part of the problem, Ava. And that you don't want me to say anything in public because you're going to now punish the workers because I speak out. That's where we're at. That's like RICO. This is what I've raised the question tonight. I put out some polls. I said to people, and I didn't tell people how to vote on this. This is just the pulse of the people tonight. And there have been more votes that have come in. It's not a large number, but if you look at my LinkedIn, there's a lot of cannabis industry people, and I can see how people are voting. And I'm telling you, the industry is voting this way. And this is what we asked them. Who do you trust at the Mass Cannabis Control Commission? Do you trust Shannon O'Brien, who's suspended? Or do you trust Sean Collins, Ava Concepcion, and her partner, Camargo, who both wanted Shannon O'Brien's job and who campaigned for Shannon O'Brien's job before Shannon O'Brien had it and continued the campaign the whole time Shannon O'Brien was chairwoman? Who do you trust? 73% on LinkedIn, where all the cannabis, that's my industry account. That's where you're going to find people who are in testing firms, at dispensaries. These are the business people. 73% say Shannon O'Brien. And I have to shake my head at the 27%. Seriously. We went to Twitter. We asked the same question. 67% Shannon O'Brien. 2-1. That's called a landslide. The public supports people that are in the know, support Shannon O'Brien. I asked another simple question. Is the Mass Cannabis Control being run like a criminal racketeering organization? Because that's the way I feel like. I feel like I'm being shook down. 80% on Twitter said yes. None of them said no. 20% said they're not sure. Ask the same question again on LinkedIn. Is the Mass Cannabis Control Commission being run like a criminal racketeering organization? This is shocking because this is the industry. If you look at my LinkedIn, there's a lot of Massachusetts industry people on there. These aren't necessarily people I'm friends with. 87% said yes. Only 9% said no. Are the feds paying attention? Is the attorney general paying attention? Is anyone paying attention to this shit? If you want to save Shannon O'Brien right now, this is it. You got the phone number right on the screen. Call Treasurer, Massachusetts Treasurer, Deb Goldberg's office. Call her tomorrow morning and let them know why you support Shannon O'Brien. And if you want to do something about the Cannabis Control Commission, this is Michael Moore. He's the senator I referenced earlier. Senator Moore has a bill right now that wants to audit and reform the Cannabis Control Commission and take powers away. And I think this is exactly what needs to be done. I was kind of skeptical at first. I had him on the show. I showed some interest. I am now 100% down with him. I feel like it should even go further. I want to defund the Cannabis Control Commission. I think that if Sean Collins and his little, group, his little cabal at the Cannabis Control Commission aren't removed, we should defund the whole operation and start over and farm out the operations to other state agencies. And this is what Michael Moore, the senator, is really aiming to do here. And he suggests that if anyone is interested and they want to, report incidents of dysfunction or things that the Cannabis Control Commission are doing wrong right now, that you should email the chairs of the Joint Committee on Cannabis Policy. And those are Senator Adam Gomez, adam.gomez at masenate.gov. And you could also Daniel Donahue, Rep. Daniel Donahue. So hit those guys up right now if you want to send something, if you want to tell them your story. What's going on with the Cannabis Control Commission? I sent mine. I let him know that that guy that they call a journalist or Cannabis Control Commission disputes that, I guess, his ethics. I actually agree with the Cannabis Control Commission about the guy's lack of ethics, but I think he actually got the story right. And he's not the only one that they're not honoring FOIA requests to. Right here. They do not respond to our FOIA request. So I let the senator and the rep know that Grant Ellis is not the only person. And we've heard from others as well. So tonight we're going to talk to Caleb Teske. We're going to talk about Wendy Murphy's son, too. This kid that we brought up, Grant Smith Ellis, because the Cannabis Control Commission did go after him about this, and he's part of the story now that we're talking about. And he's also the person that kind of brought Caleb and I even closer together because he went after us heavily, both of us, in strange ways and other people in the community. And this was a comment that I got from a friend who's in the cannabis industry, who's well aware of what's going on with Grant Smith Ellis. Again, he is Wendy Murphy's son. He said he's pretending to quote Grant. He says, "Let's complain about people not standing up for survivors, yet my mother wants Karen Reed raped in prison." That really sums up Grant Smith Ellis. He's just like such a fake bullshit artist. He'll say that I have silenced victims, which I have not done. I even let his lame ass come up on the show and represent the supposed victims he was talking about on the last time I had Caleb on the show. And we've actually banned Grant, but we lifted the ban on him that night because he's such an obnoxious liar. It's just not even worth doing. But we let him up on the show that night. And he did a horrible job. And this guy, he's not going to say anything about his mom. He does way worse things than anyone else. And it's documented. And so we're definitely going to talk about him tonight. So let's bring up Caleb Teske. What's going on, Caleb?
Hey. What's happening, Mike?
Oh.
Thanks for having me back, man.
What did you think about the little intro, my little monologue here, my rant?
That was a long monologue. there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, I want to make sure people they could keep up. Our audience could keep up. I guarantee you.
Well, I was certainly intrigued by your comments about how the CCC is maybe run like a racketeering organization. Yeah, nice picture. Thanks, Eric. He pulled up the ugliest fucking screenshot from our last interview. And
That's a good picture. I love it. You look like a cartoon character.
Yeah, it's perfect.
So what were you saying about the monologue about my criminal?
Hey, some of the stuff, and by the way, I was supposed to have Shannon on for an interview on Thursday. I don't know what's going on with that. I really hope she still comes on. I'm going to send him a link tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. But I had her lined up for Thursday at 7 p.m. It seems like a lot of drama down there.
Yeah, I have a feeling she's not going to make it.
Can you go back? Wait, go back to that slide. What's her name? Ava
Concepcion.
Yeah. What's her story?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to talk much more about Ava.
No? Okay, cool. Well, hey, I mean, certainly the story that I'd like to talk about involves a member of the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission. And, whether or not people think that's racketeering, I'll leave to you guys. I don't want to make any kind of inferences like that. And to your point, you made a comment about I'm exposed to some corruption and fraud, which I'm doing in different areas, but this is not one of them. This is what I would classify as collusion right here, which is slightly different. We're not like proving a crime here. We're not, there is no crime. And here's the picture here.
Maybe some shadiness.
It's collusion is what I would describe it
collusion.
As. So Ben Cohen, you see here with Shalene Title, and I forget these other two women's names that I did look up at one point, but
Chanel Lindsay is on the far right.
Cool. And I don't know nothing about them, so I don't want to say much about them. But, this expose that I did about Ben Cohen was really well received. And even Shalene got back to me to tell me that I did a good job on it before she blocked me, which was interesting. Do you have those screenshots?
Yes.
I sent them over to you. Yeah. Hey, cool. So that was the response from Shalene there,
So before you get there, tell us about, because a lot of people don't know who Shalene Title is, or even Ben Cohen. So who is Ben Cohen? Tell us who Ben Cohen is.
So for those of you guys that don't know, Ben is Ben from Ben and Jerry's. I'm sure most of you guys know about ice cream. He's the godfather of ice cream in Vermont. That's him. Jerry is not involved in this at all, from what I can tell. So we'll leave him out. But that's Ben Cohen, and Ben and Jerry's is a very successful company here in Vermont. And quite frankly, I think when they began, they probably had great intentions, Then they ended up selling out to a company called Unilever, which is a British multinational company. I think that was in 2000, somewhere right around there. And between that, our two major dairy industries, the other one was Cabot cheese. A lot of you guys probably know about Cabot cheese. In 1992, they sold off to Agrimark, which is an out-of-state corporation. 8 or 10 years later, Ben & Jerry sells out to Unilever. And between those two deals, it bankrupted about a third of Vermont farms over the next 2 decades and consolidated our ag industry into, like a sort of more of a confined feeding operations where your cows are just inside all the time. A lot of more. You can see the GMO corn came into play at that time because most of the feed that was giving to these cows is corn. So they started a lot more of, and that's where we'll get to Hawthorne and their connection with this because they're a big player in that as well. But, now at this point in Vermont, like 94% of our corn or something, don't quote me on that, but so over 90% of the corn grown here is GMO corn, which came associated with a lot of pesticides, glyphosate, atrazine are probably two of the big ones. And, so I don't want to blame Ben on this totally, but part of that deal with Unilever did result in the consolidation of our ag industries here. And my concern really is that they're lining up to do something similar in the cannabis industry. And part of the thing that bothers me is just that none of his staff lives here. I don't know if you've rifled through his website, his board of trustees. They all live out of state. Killer Mike is one of them. a famous rapper. You know, and then you've got like Nina Turner, who's a former senator from Ohio. You've got people like what's his name, Derek Hamilton. He was on the Biden Sanders Unity Economic Task Force. Phil Agnew, who was a surrogate for Bernie campaign. And I'm forgetting someone, Jesse Horton too. There's three connections too there to the DNC, the Bernie Sanders campaign and the Biden campaign. And that's why I don't like to characterize this as fraud or corruption. This is not fraud or corruption. Nothing illegal is happening here. These are people who are politically well connected, who have powerful friends, who are using their connections to build these networks into an emerging market, in my opinion. You know, that's what's concerning. Also concerning, look, he says, Ben likes to say, hey, 100% of our profits are going to charity. Okay, 90% of those profits are out-of-state charities. One of them is New Leaf Project in Oregon, which is run by Jeanette Horton, who is the wife of Jesse Horton, who is Ben's president of his board of trustees. And then if you go out there and you look at New Project and who they're all partnered with, well, it's big MSOs, Cookies, Wana, what's the other one? Wild, that's another big one. Also Hawthorne Industries. And Hawthorne really, to me, is a big problem because those, you know, the Hawthorne is the investment vehicle for Scott's Miracle Grow. Yeah, go on there. You want
well, it's interesting because I mean you're talking about these big companies and big connections.
Well, and the Ben and
Jerry's mission is to
the Ben and Jerry's mission has always been
equity, right?
Yeah, well, and the Ben and Jerry's mission has always been very socially conscious, right? Environmentally friendly, even though none of their packaging is recyclable in Vermont until recently. But you know, if you go through here, they have the same social mission as Ben and Jerry's had the whole time, right? And the fancy packaging and all that stuff. And what really bothers me, right? One of the particular things I notice is, you know, you go through they have these social equity loans, right? You can find it right on their website. And they gave out a loan before they were even operational. And it's supposed to help people of color, right? Black entrepreneurs, people of color start businesses. The loan they gave out was to a man named Karen Alley, Keronali. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Karen Alley worked in the fossil fuel industry for like 15 or 20 years. Do you have that screenshot of the pipeline down in Louisiana that I sent you? Pop that up there.
Before we get it there, I want to ask about this too, because you said that you were speaking to Shalene. She gave you like a good comment about that you were sticking to facts. That she blocked you. Why do you think she blocked you?
Well, she talked to you first, Mike. She saw my interview and she reached out to you. And I don't know why she did that, because she's got my name and she knows how to get a hold of me. And I've invited her on my show multiple times. I think she blocked me. She knows why she blocked me. I nailed the story. I mean, and look at the comments from Jesse Horton. Put the one from Jesse Horton up there. He blocked me too, you know. Told me my reporting was irresponsible. Meanwhile, Shailene said I nailed the facts.
And what did what is the issue like in terms of her connection? Because you did put a picture up, so people want to know like what.
Yeah, I didn't put that up. I mean, that's their picture. I just put it in my story, man. The connection is that the Parabola Center, right, has this very forward-facing position of we want corporate cannabis out of the industry. We don't deal with people that are connected with tobacco and alcohol or that call the cops on legacy grows, right? Okay, so here, Ben Cohen is, in my opinion, a pretty corporate dude. He sold out his company to a giant multinational corporation. And, you know, when I start digging into some of the Parabola Center has a lot of partners. When you start digging into some of them, you'll start to find that there's real quickly. I've only dug into a few of them. There's probably 100 of them. But if you go into, for example, the Northern Craft Cannabis Coalition, you'll find groups like the Origin Council, right? And there's this lady named Janine Coleman who worked hand in hand with CPAIR, which is basically a front for a big tobacco. Andrew Friedman. I can't remember what the kid's name is, but so there's a big front for big tobacco. Also in that group is the Cannabis Association of New York, Caney. Those guys are on Twitter happily applauding when illegal shops get shut down in New York, So
Yeah.
and we've
Yeah,
approached her.
I could see that because, like,
well, we've approached her about some of these issues, and she goes dark on us. And to answer your question, who is she? Shalene Title worked for Vicente Cederberg, which was the first cannabis law firm in the country back in Colorado. And I'm not sure the exact timeline here. But, then she also worked for Forefront, which is a big MSO with Chris
they
Crane
weren't
over
then,
there.
though.
They weren't then. Well,
yeah.
then
they weren't.
They weren't then.
They were more
and
of a
then,
consulting company back
well,
then.
they weren't then. And then, 10 months after Shalene left the Cannabis Control Commission in Massachusetts, they announced a $55 million expansion into Massachusetts. And maybe that's when they became an MSO. And the timing of that deal, I still think, is very fishy. And I think part of the collusion here was state regulators giving their friends a hand up. And I know in those screenshots, we also got her doing some work with Kayvon Kalibari, who is the COO of Cresco, which is another big MSO. And it makes me wonder, hey, if your position is you don't want all these corporations in the game, like, why are you friends with all of them? Why did you work for them? And then, how did your company magically expand into the state where you are a regulator 10 months after you left the board? And now you have this think tank where all of a sudden to me, it reeks of pulling the ladder up behind you now that all your friends are in the game. And also we isolated all the licenses that were issued while Shalene was a regulator there. And you could find every MSO in the country on there. They licensed a Curaleaf on like their second meeting. So to me, it's a very hypocritical position, especially considering all the corporate connections they have through the MCBA. If you go look through there, they always have at least like one MSO executive on their board over there. And that was Shalene's baby, along with Jesse Horton. They both co-founded the MCBA. I think it was 17, somewhere in there, before she was on the control commission. And to me, it's wild to me. Think tanks also, by the way, are tax write-offs for rich people. And I think everyone knows that. That's so rich people whose opinions we don't want to hear can amplify their stupid opinions and force feed them to us more than we need. But
let me just say something. I just got to say a few things here. I think it's fair that you're bringing all of this up. I think somebody needs to. But I also want to speak for Shalene too, and even for just the public, so they know where I kind of stand a little bit on it. Because I feel like I've known, obviously, I've known Shalene for years. We worked on things together. I think her heart's in the right place, but I agree that it's like when you open yourself up to these associations with people, and I'll give an example just locally that isn't even big company. It seems like it would actually be an example of them trying to do the right thing, but look at how it blew up in their faces, the Big Hope Project.
Yeah, well, look what happened at Nican.
Shake down Mar.
Yeah, so and I didn't want to.
And they're
not
talk
about that
white
too much,
guys.
but
They're poor black guys. Even sometimes when you're, it's a tough spot, I think. And but I'm glad that you're bringing it up. I just don't understand why she blocked you if she agreed that it was, valid criticism.
Look at all the interviews that they do with her. You'll never find people criticizing her in interviews. They run puff pieces. Even Chris Crane will write nice articles for her. Or that other dude, Eric, whatever his fucking name is, Eric Casey.
Well, they're friends with her.
Yeah, exactly. And they write nice stuff about her.
Yeah.
Well, so when she's approached by someone who might have some questions that paint her in anything less than a super positive light, and I really don't appreciate what she said about one of my guests, Larissa Bolivar, who I had on the show. After I interviewed Larissa, Shalene commented on my Twitter. She said, "Yo, you just had a woman who just slandered like 5 people of color," which I thought would basically insinuating she was racist. And then I invited Shalene on the show. I said, "Hey, if she said something that wasn't true and you want to do a rebuttal, I'm here for it, because I really don't have time to fact check everything every person says all the time. But if something was wrong, I will definitely look at it and I'll correct it." and then she just ducked me, man. And I thought that was super rude, especially
Well, I
considering.
gotta say, I think Larissa goes way too far. I think
Yeah,
that
well,
she thinks about her a
sometimes
lot too much.
sometimes she does, dude. But a
And
lot of the stuff that
I'm
she.
not surprised that Shalene came back strongly
Hey,
about it.
well, if something that she said wasn't true, tell me and I'll look at it. If
Yeah,
you
but
just
you gotta
didn't
admit
like what
though,
she.
sometimes it's better. Like, I don't want to call her. I'm not saying she's a crazy person, but you know, your major detractors. Like I have trolls now who just call me out on everything. They're making fun of my teeth now. I mean, they got nothing, obviously, but there comes a moment, in your day, if you're busy enough where you're just like, I don't want to even spend a minute on that. Like maybe it's just like that. Like
Yeah,
I
well,
just
I'll tell you, I did spend a minute on this, and I took what Larissa told me, and she was the one who plugged me into the Vicente Cedarburg connections at the very beginning, along with the marijuana policy project connections, the Students for a Sensible Drug Policy, who are also involved in that project with Kay Vaughn and Shailene, along with the LEAP, Law Enforcement Action Partnership, whatever. So sometimes
I mean,
Larissa does.
I was around
Sometimes Larissa.
Shalene at festivals doing, inviting her, working with all those organizations. So I guess I'm in on it too. I
No,
mean,
hey,
you gotta, you had to been there. Like that was the only game in town back then. Like seriously, like if you were either MPP,
and what happens
MPA,
when you're the
or
only
Mass
game in
Kid, that
town,
was like
Mike?
three things. Like, or Leap, like that was it. The SSDP, those are like the 5 orgs. Like that was it. And, almost all of them, if you look back on my old videos, I supported every single fucking one of them. And like my intentions were good. I never got any money from any of them. I think SSDP was great. I think they did a lot of great work actually. So I kind of I
Well,
don't really agree. And I think that
you said that
let
in
me
the
just
past
finish. Let
tense.
me finish you. I'm gonna give you plenty of time. I also think from my experiences that MPP with the initiatives, there was the MPP, the money. They controlled it. Chris Campia. And then there was a group of locals like Bill Downing for Bascan and others, patients. And then there was Shalene Title and Chris Crane. And those were all the locals except for that one national guy, the Campia guy, Rob Campia. I said his name wrong. Rob Campia. And Rob Campia didn't want home grow here. And Shalene and Chris Crane stood up with the patients and the locals, and we got home grow, and we forced that guy. And I feel like a lot of what has happened with the legalization is that it was passed by this MPP regime. And I feel like Shalene saw what was going on, that the MPP was basically setting up for big cannabis. That's what they did. And that she didn't have the power, but she found a way to subvert it, to get in there and start trying to use it for social equity instead. And I think it just sets up another regime that kind of has a lot of the same problems as the old regime. And no matter what you do, you can't stop big capital. I think her intentions are well. Like, I think she really means to do well. I just think that some of the things you're pointing out, Caleb, are where it gets problematic and shortcomings. And like, I'll give you an example. Shalene just came out with a statement on legalization against why they shouldn't pass, why they should just completely deschedule. Like, I love that. I thought she was great on that. Like, so there's a lot of things that she does that I think are great, but I think it's very valid that you're bringing this up. And that's why I'm having you on the show. I think I'm being fair to Shalene. If Shalene wants to come on and dispute it or give feedback on it, I'm more than welcome. Maybe that will happen. But I would love to turn it over to Caleb now, because I'm sure you got some things to say about even some of the things I'm saying right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Shalene wanted to talk about it, we would have talked about it by now. The fact of the matter is, she ducked me. And please read these comments from Lou about her maybe being a shareholder in Forefront. I'd really like to know these questions.
See that's what I'm talking about. That's the stuff.
That's
I gotta put it up there, but listen to me. Like, I gotta just say, like,
so look, just answer the questions. We've been asking her about this for months, and she always gets dodgy when we ask
well,
her
that's
about
what
it.
I'm gonna say. Like, I think that
It's a very straightforward
why
question.
won't you let me finish, Caleb? Shalene,
You said you were going to give me lots of time, and then you keep.
I am, but you're not letting me even fact check. I can't let you just fucking throw out shit, dude. You
I'm
gotta
not
let me talk.
throwing shit out, dude. We're reading
No, you
comments.
just threw something out that's bullshit. You and Lou, and I gotta respond. You said Shalene Title was and maybe still is a minority shareholder in Fraudfront. That is a false. That is a falsity, and that's a shit that the other woman says that I have a problem with. Because if that is true, Shalene lied to the state of Massachusetts when she was a cannabis control commissioner, and I don't think that
that's
Shalene.
never happened.
I don't think Shalene Title is lying about it.
Well, then why doesn't she just answer the question? Because we asked
she already
her about
has.
this months ago.
She said that she does not,
and she said
it. No. Yeah, and that's again, like that's where I have a problem with you. You act like she hasn't responded to that question. She's responded to it over and over again. Okay. Even on social media, she's responded to it.
Well, I have a problem with you, Mike, is because you've had her on your show multiple times and you never ask her about any of this shit. The same with Shannon O'Brien and her interest in this company, which you totally glossed over on your interview with her.
Listen to me. If you want to call someone a liar who's
I'm not calling you a liar. I'm saying you're omitting. I'm just going
to remove you for a second so I can take over my show because you're not even letting me speak, Caleb. And this is what I'm saying. If you want to leave, Caleb's gone. Fine. That turned into a great show for you, Caleb. I mean, I don't know what to say. If you want to have a civil conversation about it and have a two-way street, like I told you I was going to represent Shailene here, and I wasn't even being that strong. You just weren't letting me talk. And, basically when you want to say that Shalene Title and Shannon O'Brien have interested things that they've gone on the record and written down in writing that they don't, like that's problematic. That's how you get sued. You want to get sued? Go ahead. Maybe they won't sue you because your show only has 150 listeners, but my show has more listeners and I'm not getting sued for you tonight. So I'll bring up Eric. Eric, you got something to say tonight?
Am I there? Am I in?
Yeah, you're here. What did you think about that? I mean,
Mike,
I didn't expect that to go stuff like that. I was trying to
you're being a little
Caleb
bit of a
tonight.
dick. You're being rude.
Being a dick.
No,
you think it was me or him?
I think you're being rude. I think Caleb is your guest, and you're not giving him the chance to. I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I don't think Caleb is saying anything but what he knows. I don't think he's lying, and I don't
think he's lying, but he's misrepresenting. When you say,
listen,
Mike, listen to me, Eric. Eric.
All right, this is where
I've been a financial advisor. I had to put shit down in writing to the government and say, I own this, I don't own this. If Mike, I lie, I go to fucking jail.
You're afraid to lose your platform. I understand. It's a big risk.
No. See, that's again, it's not about my platform. This, if anything, like by pushing back on him, like the more popular thing was to pile on Shalene. That would be the much more popular thing. I am actually saying I was a financial advisor, Eric. I put it down in writing what I owned and what I didn't know, who I owed. If I lied, I would fucking go to jail. Shalene Title and Shannon O'Brien have done that, but people continue to accuse them of things that they've said in writing. So that they
let's look at the picture as a whole. All right, let's take out the names and the individual the individual characters of this. So we're talking. You started this whole show about the Cannabis Control Commission, right? And how it's corrupt. You said these facts, right? You said these are your blanket statements, right? You think there is you're creating polls, you're driving the narrative, and I agree with you 1,000% because it has to be brought to the public's attention that there's a lot of shady shit going on. Do you agree that shady shit has been going on since the beginning?
Yeah.
So is there any reason to believe that there isn't some sort of collusion? There isn't some sort of narrative.
You guys don't know your history. That's what I was the
this
first
is not about
person
history.
in Massachusetts with KOP
Mike,
to go before the D. Why can't I speak tonight on my fucking show? I was the first person to go before the
because you're cutting off your guests. You can speak as long as you want, Mike. This is your show, and you can drop me to the back room again too, or cancel me. But you're not letting either one of us speak, and neither of us are trying to be disrespectful. We're just talking. We're having a conversation. So if you want this to be fair, then you should let us share our opinions, our feelings.
I am, Eric.
And then we'll take a turn.
Where haven't I let anyone share their opinion? What I've seen.
I thought you cut off.
I'm trying to make a point, and you're not letting me speak.
Let's go back and forth. You can make yours. Let's make ours.
Let me speak.
Go ahead.
Now, what I was gonna, I've already lost my train of thought, which sucks. But
well, you were talking about you've been here since K-pop. You've been here since the beginning.
Yes. So you talk about the corruption. KOP and I were the first ones to ever testify in front of the state at the DPH and said, "How much is this going to cost the patients?" So I was there. I was the first one to say it. Like I've called it out before anyone else. But because I was there, I saw who was responsible. Shalene Title isn't responsible for the way the system got set up. if she's responsible for anything, she's responsible for what Caleb was pointing out, which I wanted to discuss tonight. But he wasn't even letting me fucking speak. He wasn't even letting me say, "Hey, dude, I have an issue with one thing that you said." Like, that's fucked up. Like,
is he still in? Is he still in?
No, he left. He left like a fucking baby. I mean,
Caleb, go back in. Go back into the back room. He's got the link. No, let him back in. You got to give him a chance.
You know, I pushed him back for a while to have this show, but I got Shalene things up there. I let him say his thing, but he wouldn't even like let me. Like he's a baby. He's basically being a baby about it. Like,
let's get back to the main point of the show. The point of the show is that we've got a commissioner who seemed to be a voice of the community, right? She spent the time listening. She spent the time speaking to you and to other community members. And we actually thought she was doing a phenomenal job representing a voice where other commissioners, and we know for sure the executive director, could give a fuck about, right?
Yep.
So the main issue now is we have complete chaos. We've got the one manager who seemed to be a voice for the community that's no longer there, that has been removed. We never even heard a reason why she was suspended. Don't you think that's fucked up?
Yeah.
I mean that's
fucked up.
I mean, and I know you you have a connection with her. I would love to know, do you know why? Has she spoken to you? Has she said why? She had to be given a reason. She couldn't just like showed up one day with an email that said, "Don't come to work, turn in your laptop." I mean, I don't think that happens when you're this high up in a political position. I mean, it possibly does if there's some huge conspiracy and you were stuck in a movie theater being fondled by your new boyfriend. I mean, clearly that would be a cause for concern, but Shannon O'Brien has done nothing but support our community and has provided clear transparency on all the issues. So what was the reason why she was suspended?
Well, that's the big question.
What do you think?
I think Shannon knows, but I think that she officially hasn't been told.
Do you know?
I know a lot.
Okay, so share. Let's hear it.
I can't. I mean, let's put it this way. She's not the first one.
First one what? That's been suspended for no reason?
Well, what happened to the last chairman?
Disappeared.
Why?
Asking too many questions.
So who got rid of him? What
executive happened? Sean Collins, that motherfucker.
Now, how do you get rid of someone if you're an executive? If they're another commissioner?
Yeah, I mean, he's a fucking rat.
Yeah, but how does he push him out? How do you think about it? I want to ask you, what do you think?
I mean,
because I want to give it
the secretary.
Eric,
it seems
let
to
me
me.
Just stop you for 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
This is a perfect opportunity to because I think you're going to figure this out. Because they just assume that Shannon O'Brien is telling me, and mostly what I know is not from Shannon O'Brien. So
okay,
I want to see if you who've been following this can figure this out without me telling you. So how do you think Sean Collins does it? How did he get rid of the last two executives?
All right. So if we play out the last several months, there was a number of issues that were being brought to the public's attention that I know for sure he didn't like. I think he felt the heat. And then he, maybe in private or in public, I'm not sure, decided that he was going to take a leave of absence. And Commissioner O'Brien said, "That's fucking no, we're not doing that. No, you're gonna represent the commission. You're gonna do your job. You're gonna answer the questions. You're gonna figure out what the fuck happened to Lorna, and you're gonna have to answer these questions." And so that's where I feel like he was just started feeling, fuck, I gotta get out of this right now because this can't come down. All this shit gets uncovered that I'm fucking doing a bad job, or I'm clearly not doing my job well enough to complete this investigation, or maybe I am doing some sort of favoritism. And he basically just called the shots and said, "Get rid of her." And I don't know too much about how O'Brien gets selected. I know she was selected by the secretary. I thought there was some sort of election process. I guess it's not the case.
They're all appointed. She was appointed by the treasurer.
Right.
Yeah,
So did
like
I mean, I don't know how far off I am from what at least I've seen and read, but I mean, clearly he's I mean, and you know what's going to happen next I mean, it's only logical that if she's gone and there's a new commissioner, he comes back to his job, right? He's not taking a leave. His leave of absence right now is let the dust settle, right? He's working all the parts. He's playing chess. She's going to be out. There'll be a new commissioner who's going to let him do his thing, his fucking shady shit, and then he'll be back and say, I don't know what she was talking about. I never said I was going to be off the job. I'm here to represent. And he'll be back doing everything he's been doing for the last like however many years, 7-8 years since the start.
Yeah, unless they defund him, which I'm hoping the state defunds him a bit here.
So do I have any of that right, or is that the shit? Am I making that shit up? Like, is
pretty close, but think about like, okay, what are the powers that executive director has? What does he have powers over, and how can he use those against commissioners? Think about that. What's the number one power he has?
Licenses?
Well, that's one, but that doesn't really affect the commissioners. Like,
staff. I mean, I know that was Grant's thing.
There you go. He's got all the power over staffing. So
right.
What does that mean? What does that mean? People, he could decide who gets promotions. He decides even the staffing of the commissioners. So, he decides that if someone's complaining against somebody, maybe they get a promotion or demoted, depending on who they're complaining against. Get it?
So let me ask you a question, and I'm curious about this. So it seemed as though Grant's number one resource in the recent past has been Sean Collins, right? They have a friendship, they have a relationship, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but it sounds to me like he was getting a lot of information directly from that person himself, from Sean Collins. Why all of a sudden is he reporting that he could, in fact, sort of shape the staffing issue at the CCC? Why did it seem all of a sudden he's going against that relationship? Does that seem like that's what he was doing?
Well, I think that it's pretty, if you know Grant, like most of us do in the in the community, Grant always attacks anybody who he becomes familiar with. Like that's who he is. Like he will turn on anybody that's close to him. So anybody who's ever been close to, if you're friendly with them, the best advice is tell them to run away, because eventually he will stick a knife in you. Gotcha. So, and I think you're probably right. I think that I think Collins probably was feeding Grant Smith a lot of information. And I feel like that Grant probably ended up sticking the knife at him, probably for something stupid that Collins didn't even realize was an issue, or who knows? So he did something.
And then you think Collins wrote that letter that called him basically a piece of shit when he said, when he was, the whole CCC press release.
Well, that's the thing. That's about the staffing. I don't think Sean Collins does anything. I think he's a lazy son of a bitch. And I think that he told some staffer what to put in the letter, and they wrote the letter, and then he reviewed it and said, "Oh, take this out, put that in." Like he's not writing anything. That guy is sitting at home, mooching on that.
Just waiting.
This is they're trying to turn this basically, I want everyone to know, in Massachusetts, the Cannabis Control Commission has been being turned into a no-show agency. It's a job that you don't have to show up for. You don't have to work. And Shannon O'Brien wasn't putting up with that.
Yeah.
She was a treasurer, and she was a treasurer during a time when the lottery was the biggest pay, no-show job around, political appointments, people stealing money, all kinds of scandals. When Shannon O'Brien was in there, cleaned it right up. It was like a big success. Like that was her claim to fame. That's how she got famous, like locally. So like you look at someone like her, she's not going to put up with this shit. Yeah. So there you go. Like I don't think he even wrote that email. Yeah.
So does that? I mean, she was also. Did she run for governor? Wasn't she running against Mitt Romney at some point?
Yep.
Yeah. So
and if you look at her too, like she took some shit to her about a debate about some shit she said. I don't even think it was that bad, but like I feel like sometimes people criticize her because of the things she says. Mm-hmm. And it's like, look, some of us aren't like the best speakers. Some of us like say things that we don't really mean, or in a wonky way, or a boomer way. She's a boomer. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not the most PC way to say something, but it's about what's in the heart. Like she's not saying it to be mean or nasty to someone. I think that some of they're using that against her. That's my opinion. That's how, and I don't know what the complaint is, but I guarantee it's something like that she said something to one of these staffers at the CCC and they would have let it go, but they're not letting it go because they know it gets a promotion from Sean Collins, who wants her out.
I mean,
so that's how dirty this commission is. And that's why I say it's a criminal organization. They are not responding to our FOIAs. It's criminal. Like everything they do is criminal. And I'm kind of pissed too that we're having this conversation. It's awesome after what just happened with Caleb. And I know you think I'm at fault, but I think he's at fault. I'm going to listen back to it later and see. But
yeah,
I feel like on my show, I should be able to fucking say my piece. Like
he all right.
I was going to let him go for an hour and a half, 2 hours tonight. Like, what more do you fucking want? Like,
you listen, you've been very protective of Shailene Title for years. You have a sweet spot for her.
Protective to a degree. Listen, I am not protective of it anymore.
You're doing it
that's
again.
the one thing people have to realize.
Mike,
is I'm not doing it, but I'm not going to be dishonest on her. There's a difference between protecting someone and being dishonest on her. When you claim with no proof that she has an interest of a company that she told the state government in writing that she has no interest in, that she would fucking go to jail over.
I'm
that's a problem. That's the problem with Caleb. Like, I get documents. Like, I love a lot of shit tonight. He was talking about documents. There's no documentation on that. That's my problem. I'm a fucking journalist. I back shit up. There's no backing that her or Shin O'Brien have business interest that they told the state government that they don't have in writing. Right. That is like so easy to throw someone in jail for. Like, that's like when I accuse the testing company TrueLeaf of committing fraud, it's because I have it in writing. Like, I have it right here. She signed her fucking name. Her husband, you know what I mean? It's like, that's what I want to see.
You and Caleb are different.
I like Caleb.
You're different hosts
right now because I guarantee he's going to badmouth me and say, "Oh, you protected Shailene." Oh. It's like, dude,
if Caleb was a big boy, he would join. So I hope he's watching.
But he's gone. He's mad.
Caleb, wherever you are, come back on the show. Yeah. And inevitably, I think you two are both completely different hosts. You have two different shows, and you have completely two different styles. I think you both are very intriguing and talented, and that's the bottom line. And I get it. I think he came out strong. He did. Not,
that's what pisses me off too. It's like he ruined his credibility to my audience. Like, to a lot of them, I think maybe not everybody, but to some people that are new to him. Because I'm just like, dude, like, just because someone says, I don't like this, what you're saying, all he had to do is say, you know what? You're right. I don't have documentation on that. I suspect that she's lying. That's all he had to say. And I'd say, okay, you suspect she's lying. We can't prove that she's lying. We have no proof of that. I'm not getting sued. Like, I carry insurance for the show. Like,
listen, Mike, but okay. So, but to be honest, you could have said all of that to him and not to me, and continued on.
I tried. He wouldn't let me talk.
Well, so you could have.
I had to fucking kick him out of the room. Just like, you know what I mean? Like,
whatever.
I don't know if he's drunk. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with him.
Listen, before I sign off, I just wanted to say one thing. Listen, you promoted a picture. I hooked you up with some of the medical cannabis. That shit's fire. Some Star Dog, some AK. I got some amazing feedback from that photo alone. I got a lot of people reaching out to me through Facebook. I was able to make a couple trips. I went in and out throughout my workday, and I think I did a couple drop-offs. And it was so fun, and I looked forward to doing more of that. And then all of a sudden, my fucking Facebook page got reported and got shut down. So I don't know, how I violated any of the, Facebook community shit. But essentially, I tried logging in at one point last week, and I couldn't. I obviously refuted the suspension, and they have not given me access back to my account. So I want to continue to provide free cannabis to the community. So if people are going to try to reach out to me, and if you're in need, if you're a medical patient, please reach out to me via Twitter. Right now, it's basically the only service until Elon says I have to fucking pay $10 a month for it. At that point, I have no idea what the fuck I'm going to do, because I can't imagine putting any money in that motherfucker's pocket. So, but right now, Twitter is the best way to reach me, at Hayes Podcast. But love giving out free weed, and just harvested all of my outdoor grow. So in about 2 or 3 more weeks, all that stuff's going to be trimmed up, put into jars, and I've got huge more supply coming down the line. So that's it. Just want to share. Thanks for bringing me
You know
on.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote instead of Caleb. I was all about promoting Caleb tonight. I'm promoting you. I'm going to send everyone your Twitter.
I appreciate that. But I appreciate Caleb. I appreciate you. So
I'm not,
keep up the good work. I know listen, you carry insurance for the right reasons. You've got a great platform. You've got a lot of followers. Hey, you know what? Actually, I want to ask you a question too. There's so much suspicious shit going on. Why don't you ever bring up the next time you talk to Turtle Boy what he thinks of this? Do you think Turtle Boy would ever cover the CCC? Do you think if any of this
not now?
Would
he has no
him?
interest in anything but Karen Reed now.
I understand, and there will be some ebbs and flows around that case, and I know he's going through the roof right now. He's going to the moon with that story. But at some point, I would. You're doing a great job reporting the facts, but his platform right now in Massachusetts is bar none, right? Like he has probably the strongest independent fiery voice, and if anyone who is on his radar would be shaking in their boots, right? Like if he has a taste, maybe just a little bit of what I'd be interested to see if he would take it on, because you're doing a great job, like I said, but clearly it's not doing enough. Shannon O'Brien, if she's gone, what other commissioner is going to be able to join your show and speak directly to you?
Nobody.
Exactly.
So it's over. That's what I feel like. It's over.
So I feel like we just need to open up the floodgates, man, and put our best on the case. So if you ever have a chance, just drop that on him. See what he would do. See if offline. Obviously, you don't have to bring it up to him while this whole Karen thing's going on. But at some point, plant the seed. Be like, hey, man, this shit's been going on for a while, and this is. I understand the Karen Reed thing is a national story right now. I think it's got all the right parts of a movie. It's like Basic Instinct. There's drama, there's sex, there's a murder. It's police cover up. This shit's I'm thinking about who's going to be playing who in the next 2 years when this movie comes out, because it's going to be. Once this shit goes down and the truth comes out, there's going to be a movie made about this. It has to be. But I'd love to see his take on the CCC shit, because now we're talking not just firings and staffing issues, but we're talking this is $1 trillion industry, right? This is a true cannabis heist. This is a takeover, right? And
yeah.
And the main focus is not the Alberts here. It's fucking Sean Collins. He is the evil guy. He is the emperor. And I'd love to get someone like Turtle Boy on the case to see if he could uncover any more information.
I don't know.
Anyway,
I don't know if it's juicy enough for him. I don't know.
How could it not be? It has all the similar parts.
Yeah.
It's a mafia. It's Godfather 4. You know?
I get it. I don't know
how much money is involved in this.
Yeah.
We're talking. This is not I understand it's in an infancy of an industry, but it's billions of dollars. They just reported, I think in July, a record for sales. Right? It was in the hundreds of millions. It's an enormous story, in my opinion. We're obviously personally involved and affected by it, and so are a lot of our friends. But I don't know. That's it. I don't want to say any more. I think I've used up all my time here, Mike. But love what you're doing. Keep it up, and I'm gonna say peace.
Twitter.com/Hayes Podcast.
Hayes Podcast. You got it. Reach out to me. DM me if you want free weed. Free weed. Later. Peace.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I got a comment here. Caleb is a circus clown. Thanks for shutting him off. That's the thing. I don't think all of his stuff is circus clown. I thought he was bringing up a lot of good points, actually. I just think it sucks that he takes any type of pushback. He can't take. I don't know. He wouldn't even let me fucking speak like that on my show. Like, that's the thing about me too. Like, I have a thing about this show. Like, I've been doing it for 9 years. You're not coming on my platform and talking over me and not letting me speak. Like, if you don't have that kind of respect for the show, then I guess you don't belong here. And I put him in the timeout and he took off. Like, I'm sure he's going to badmouth me and say I'm protecting Shalene. I don't talk to Shalene. I don't care about like Shalene title. She doesn't occupy any space in my brain at all anymore. I mean, at one point you could say I protected her a little bit. I could see that. But at this point, there is none of that. But what I will not let someone do is get attacked with things that aren't truthful. And that's basically what I was saying. I was saying, you don't have any backing to say that she owns a piece of this company that she put in writing that she doesn't own to the state. Like, I just don't see how that is allowed in your reporting. I don't see why it's a problem either to get pushed back on that. Like, if it was me and I'm trying to present a story on another person's show, I would just say, oh yeah, you're right. That's just kind of my opinion. I think she might be lying. That's all he had to say. So, you know what? This is the point we'll take phone calls. If we have anyone still listening, I think we turned a lot of people off when that little fight went down. So if you do want to call, we'll take phone calls now. This is even like, you know what? The trolls could get through. Zonker, you could get a chance. You could light me up right now, Zonk. Call in. Let's put up the number. Now that Caleb's driven everyone away tonight. It's funny, too. You give someone an opportunity on a show that's bigger than theirs. And it's like, dude, what did you think? Like, that was not good for your brand tonight. Like, you could have picked up some listeners. 978-560-3155. Instead, he brought our show down. We could have lifted both shows easily tonight. I don't get that. 978-560-3155 if you want to call in tonight. Quickly, before I go. Now I got to chop up the show because I don't even want to include Caleb tonight in the podcast. I don't. Someone said too high. You're too high to call in. That's a good reason, Z. I think I'm too high to continue tonight. I think I'm just going to take a break and call it a night. Again, oh, you know what? We did do some, we at least got one contribution tonight. Again, I just want to make sure that everyone knows we're doing, and we did raffle off the t-shirt to the last fundraiser for Karen Reed. It's going to New Hampshire. It's all packaged up. It's going to go out in the mail tomorrow. A double XL. And tonight, again, we're doing a fundraiser for Karen Reed. 50% of any proceeds that we raise tonight will go to the Karen Reed Defense Fund. Let's see what we got tonight. I know I did see one come in. Let's just. All right, let's check Venmo first. Venmo. All right, we got nothing on Venmo. Cash App, we did get $25 from Ann McLeod. She says, for a great show, thank you for your continued support. Thank you, Ann. Since you're the only contributor tonight, we did raise some money for Karen Reed, which is awesome. I guess that's the best part of tonight. And I did get my opening spiel, which I'll cut up, about Shannon O'Brien and all that. But we did raise some money. And I just want to say, Ann, if you're still listening, hit me up, because I would like to mail you out a t-shirt if we have the right size for you, and a bumper sticker. So send me a message or hit me up on social media. All right. I think that's about it tonight. Young Jerks. I don't know when we're going to be back. We got a lot of shows we got to book right now. But again, you know what I want to do tonight? I want to play this little
Commissioner Kwargo, do you have any opening comments?
ridiculousness that happened at the Cannabis Control Commission. There's been cannabis control hearings yesterday and today. And this was yesterday's hearing where they fought over who was going to be the chair. And you could definitely see the split, the Cannabis Control Commission. And this is what Sean Collins does. He divides and conquers. And you could see who he's backing through the attorney, too. You can see the attorney stepping in here. And you could, I've got to say, the two people that win this little debate, they're the two that wanted Shannon O'Brien's job from the beginning. Before Shannon O'Brien was even, named as the chair, they wanted that job.
Not too many. Just good morning. I'm excited to be here. This is the bulk of a lot of months and a lot of years of work. And I'm just excited to kind of get them to a look.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion.
Good morning. I think that we're all eager to really get down to the core of our function here as regulators and get these regulations done. I again want to extend my gratitude and appreciation for everyone who's given their opinions, their comments, either verbally during our public hearings or in writing. I think a lot of us have spent a good deal of time combing through those, and they were really insightful. And with that said, that's the conclusion of my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins.
Sure, thank you. Also just want to express my thanks not only to everybody who submitted commentary, but obviously everybody who submitted commentary prior to the formal comment period. And, Commissioner Camargo, you said something, this has been years in the making, not just this regulatory work, but advocacy work on behalf of this entire commission, advocacy work on behalf of municipalities, on behalf of the industry that affected the changes that we're trying to, the legislative changes that we're now trying to incorporate into regulations. So looking forward to the conversation, the discussion, the ideas, and hopefully wrapping up a final version we can all agree upon that will be ready for the final steps. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. I just want to say that this day is a long time in the making, starting from when the governor signed it into law on November 29th, 2022. It's taken a lot of energy and effort and work to get to this point. I want to thank everyone involved, including all the stakeholders who provided us copious amounts of feedback, which I read all of it. So I want to thank you for all of that today. Having said that, the most important thing this body can do today is to get these draft adult use and medical use regulations finalized. That is what we are appointed to do, and we take that very seriously. So that is the matter at hand. That is the work at hand. A lot of folks are waiting to see what we do today, and a lot of business owners, stakeholders, municipalities. So that is the number one priority of this commission, is to address these draft regulations. And we're going to ask for everyone's patience because you're going to see how the sausage is made today, because we're going to live edit. So I just want to thank everyone in advance for their patience. So having said that, we're going to move to commission discussion and vote.
Commissioner Roy, if I may. The commission does need to vote and adopt a acting chair, as we do not currently have one for this meeting.
We do, and we are going to stick to the agenda, and new business is the fourth item, so we're going to stick to the agenda. Attorney Carter.
Yes, but we do not have an acting chair for this meeting.
Why is that?
Because no chair has been designated.
We have a statute. We can't have ultravirus making up laws as we go. We have statute and we have precedent here, and the secretary has been appointed as secretary and has served as the acting chair, including Commissioner Stebbins when he was secretary, for about a half a dozen times with no objections to that in the chair's absence.
Yes, if I may. So there are two ways for an acting chair to be designated. One is by the sitting chair. Here we do not have that, so we must go to 94G Section 4. The commission shall have all the powers necessary and convenient to carry out and effectuate its purposes, including but not limited to the power to appoint officers and hire employees. The commission as a body has the authority to designate an acting chair, which would be considered the appointment of a temporary presiding officer.
As the general counsel of the Cannabis Control Commission saying, the commission has to vote on a new chair, that Shannon O'Brien can't select them because Shannon O'Brien is suspended, which might be valid. It might be a valid point. But I'd also suggest, I'm guaranteed that Sean Collins was probably the one that selected this attorney for his position.
So you, first of all, we have appointing authorities that we've designated, appointing officers, and I'm one of them as secretary. And sort of, as in your explanation, is not statute. Sort of is not statute, where you alluded to sort of. So the precedent here, we've had no objections in the chair's absence where the secretary has chaired the meeting. There's been no objection until today.
If I may, Commissioner Roy, like in previous instances, the sitting chair designated a chair. Here, that action has not occurred, so this body needs to designate an acting chair in order to run the meeting.
Has Shannon O'Brien been removed from her position as of today?
Not that I'm aware of.
And technically, she's still chair.
Yes, but she's not exercising the authority as chair.
So your argument was we have no chair.
For this meeting, we do not.
I'm moving to rule it out of order. I'm sticking with the menu, the agenda.
Commissioner,
Mhm.
if I may. I know we're in a tough situation, just obviously, where we're at. I know that other commissions that mirror sort of our commission, I know like the gaming commission have had sort of a situation like this before. I know that last week we had a meeting and you ran the meeting, you chaired the meeting. I think that as a body, we do have the power and the authority to pick an acting chair.
Can you point in statute where that says that?
Sure. Yeah.
Can you show me?
I'm happy to read it, Commissioner. Section 94G, Section 4A. The commission shall have the powers necessary or convenient to carry out and effectuate its purposes, including but not limited to the power to appoint officers and hire employees.
And, yep, Mr. Stebbins.
Just so we can move on and get to work, I move that this commission appoint the secretary as acting chair for the purposes of this regulatory review meeting.
I second it.
Discussion?
Point of inquiry.
Yeah, so we're going to discuss your motion that's on the table right now. So I would say, I know what the law says, and I think that all of us as commissioners here who are here today have been working very collaboratively in order to move forward throughout the regulatory process the last few months, along with our team and even for ourselves. I think that we're in a very, I think people say we're in a pickle. But in terms of the motion that's on the table, I think, Commissioner Roy, I thank you for, the work that you've done and stepping up to manage last week's meeting and before. I think that we're in a situation where we have a regulatory process at hand. We have not just the next few days, but we also have the next few months. This is one of the first steps that we have around the regulatory, these regulatory policies that we need to go through. We have more to come. We have a lot at the table. We have been working on other regulatory working groups as well that we want to get things through. So for that reason, I do have a motion myself. I don't think at this moment, I'm not supporting the process of having you be the acting chair. And I think that, like I said, there's one motion on the table, so I can stop there, but my discussion or my motion, different than Commissioner Stebbins, once we're finished with this discussion, I'm happy to put that motion on the table as well. I think we're at a critical point at the commission where the focus here is regulatory, really understanding the law, not just with our legal team, but us as commissioners and understanding the process. And there's a lot at stake right now. So I don't support the motion.
Okay, so I'm going to,
Let me just add some clarity to the motion that I put on the table. First of all, My motion was just to designate the secretary for the purposes of the upcoming regulatory hearings that we're all involved in. Long term, our status, and I think the chair's status is still up in the air, but for us just to be able to move through these next hopefully 3 days of wrapping up our regulatory work was the intent behind my motion. Obviously, the chair's responsibility is recognizing speakers, trying to stick to the agenda, helping to essentially moderate the debate and discussion. Obviously, all four of us are going to have a lot of input, a lot of role in the discussion going forward, a lot of role in, reviewing the regs, offering our insight, our commentary to that. So again, I offer this motion just because, one, it has been consistent with our precedents of the secretary assuming the role as chair. Yes, I hear legal counsel's consideration that usually has come with a chair's designation, but sticking as closely as we can to our precedents, I think will allow us to start the work and get through the next 3 days as quickly as we can and thoughtfully as we can. So just to clarify my point behind the motion, Chair.
Before I do a roll call vote on Commissioner Stebbins' motion as secretary, I feel it's important. I'm going to just, we keep hearing about our heightened code of ethics. So I'm just going to read from it. As secretary, I think it's a good reminder for all of us, including myself. No commissioner or employee may participate in a particular matter as defined by General Laws 268A that affects the financial interests of a relative within third degree of consanguinity. A person of whom such a commissioner or employee has a significant relationship is defined below. A business organization in which he is serving as an officer, director, trustee, partner, or employee. Any person or organization with whom she is negotiating or has an arrangement.
Point of clarity.
Mhm.
Can you just clarify why this is being entered into the record today?
This is being entered in the record today as a reminder of how we are held to a high ethical standard. And as secretary, I have every right to read this. So I'm going to finish reading it.
I was just wondering, as it relates to the current conversation, how does it apply?
Let me just say it pretty plainly, Ava. I think she's calling out your lack of ethics and reminding
It
you.
applies because we're going to take we're sort of in uncharted territory here. We're going to take a critical vote. And so I think it's a friendly reminder. So I will keep reading. Thank you. Any person or organization with whom he is negotiating or has any arrangement concerning prospective employment. Such particular matters include, but are not limited to, the hiring process for employment at the commission, vetting and selection of vendors for the bidding process, and review and approval of license registration. To participate means to participate in agency action or in a particular matter personally and substantially as a state employee through approval, disapproval, decision, recommendation, the rendering of advice, investigation, or otherwise. Appearances of conflict of interest. Where a commissioner's impartiality may be reasonably questioned, a commissioner must.
Do you think she's calling out Roy? I mean, do you think Commissioner Roy is calling out Ava Concepcion and Nerys Camargo right there? I think she definitely is doing that.
Either disqualify or recuse themselves and abstain from participating in the voting in that matter, or file with the State Ethics Commission 23B3 disclosure form prior to participating or voting in the matter. So I think this is a good reminder for all of us that any vote taken today could be in consideration as part of a look back for a future conflict of interest, and we must all hold ourselves to the highest of standards.
Or even lawsuits. I know the mom, Alona McMurray, is watching, and I know that she told me she's going to probably sue the Cannabis Control Commission and probably some of these folks individually.
Any other comments? Okay, I'll call vote. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy. Aye. Commissioner Concepcion.
No.
Commissioner Camargo.
No. Commissioner, if I may put a motion on the table?
So the motion fails, 2 opposed, 2 in favor.
If I may?
Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for reading that. Like you said, we're in a process, and at the end of the day, today's focus is to get the work done. But my motion, I'll put my motion on the table. I'll say why my motion, and then we can sort of move along. But my motion is that we appoint Commissioner Concepcion as our acting chair for the purposes of the regulatory process until a chairperson has arrived, whatever that means. And, you know, I'll say, or comes back, right? Whatever you, however you want to say it. I saw the look, so I'm just trying to clarify. But my motion is that we move to assign Commissioner Concepcion as our acting chair for the regulatory process. And I've witnessed Commissioner Concepcion the past
puppet.
few months
I've
being
witnessed
on
her being a
all of the
puppet.
regulatory working groups.
Puppet for Sean Collins.
From her bio, the work that she's done in the past, she has written and managed a regulatory process. She is a lawyer, an outstanding lawyer. And I don't, not just myself, but I think the community can agree with that. This process that we have
The
in
votes
next
aren't
few
showing it,
days,
Ava.
plus the next few
The
months,
votes aren't showing it on
it's going to
social
take
media.
all of us to work together and really understand the process, the regulatory process. We have an amazing legal team, but I know that we will need some of that. And Commissioner Concepcion, like I said earlier, I've witnessed you do a lot of work here, and I know that your legal background is very, very helpful to the process. So I want to take it upon myself to move to appoint you as the acting chair. And I'll leave it at that, Commissioner Roy, for your next procedure.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Concepcion.
Second.
Okay, take a roll call vote.
Little discussion.
Discussion.
You guys-
Are there any comments or questions?
Yeah, again, I offered my original motion because again, I thought based on precedent and again, to Commissioner Camargo's point, we're somewhat in a pickle being 2-2. But help me understand if you can, Commissioner Concepcion, because I do see you as being a lot of the discussion today, because a lot of the regulatory work you have been involved in, right? This is suitability, this is social equity, and this is host community agreement, and certainly I see you driving a lot of that conversation, but obviously there's, as I pointed out, other responsibilities that go with the chair in terms of recognizing folks to speak, recognizing questions to staff, and I'm just walk through that kind of line of responsibility.
Just ask for a little bit of clarity so I understand your question correctly. Is your concern about my ability to coordinate the meetings?
No, it's again, my original motion was again to follow precedents. I guess I am raising the question of how do you intend to, one, walk through? I know what is going to be a lot of thoughtful input from you on these 3 topics, again, because you were part of the 3 working groups, but also again, just having the responsibility also of recognizing speakers and doing those things as we kind of go through it. Just kind of,
Sure.
if you can't just.
So
She's gonna run everything. She's gonna do everything.
as Commissioner Camargo noted, and as you yourself has noted as well, I've already played a unique role in this process.
I've played a huge role in this process, except I haven't helped workers, haven't helped patients, haven't helped.
Being the only commissioner to write and be a part of every working group that we are discussing throughout this regulatory round. So that gives me a different level of insight. I know that at least for these conversations today and tomorrow and potentially Wednesday in particular, I have the ability to really assist in who needs to add to any commentary or background to every point and issue that we're going to discuss. On top of that, I think that I might be uniquely positioned to be able to coordinate the meetings on top of going through our regulatory round because I'm not confused about what's written. I already know it. I have that advantage there. And I won't get into sort of what I've done to this point to get us where we are in terms of regulations, but you know, the legislative and executive outreach strategy, you know, making sure that we were active, that we were heard, that we actually got this bill to the place where it was to become law. I won't go too deep into that, but I understand what we're doing here. And I know sort of the function and processes that need to take place from this point forward. And I think that I'm uniquely positioned because of that.
Okay.
Let me just add, and thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Stebbins was not quite finished.
No, if I can, direct, question to Commissioner Camargo. Can you just repeat your motion?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner
Yeah.
Jones. I move to appoint, let me actually look at my my notes, so I can say it exactly for our legal notes.
Luis Camargo. Gotta look at our notes.
So I move to designate Commissioner Concepcion as acting chair until the return of the chairperson.
Would you invite, again, day to day, we don't know what's going to happen.
Sure.
Would you be willing to amend your original motion to just say appoint Commissioner Concepcion as acting chair during this series of regulatory review meetings?
And Commissioner Stebbins, I always call on you as the professional commissioner because you were on the gaming commission, I think 10 years before coming here, but tell me why.
Again,
The professional commissioner. Oh, she said a lot of crazy stuff, man. The professional. I call you the professional commissioner because you've been professionally commissioning for 10 years. Oh my God.
And
What's your fear?
huh?
What's your fear? Tell me why.
What's your fear? What's your fear? How do you tell me your fears?
There's no fear.
I love him. He said there's no fear. She's like took one of those professional sales courses, and they're like, you gotta to win somebody over, you gotta know what they're afraid of. What's your fear, Bruce? What's your fear? Come on, come to me, Bruce. What's your fear?
Just thinking through how do we prepare ourselves for whatever might come with the current situation we find ourselves in.
Do you mind if I make an additional comment?
You have to be recognized.
Let me just finish. And I both Commissioner Concepcion and Commissioner Camargo appreciate what you're stating in terms of what I know Commissioner Concepcion can bring to the regulatory hearings that we're having. These few meetings that we're having with respect to review, comment, changes, final promulgation.
Sure.
I would ask if you would consider this designation of chair just being for this regulatory review process, because we don't know what might happen
So let me ask
by
you.
the end of the week
Yeah.
or next week. Or
I hear you, Commissioner Stebbins, and I know you, I'm sorry, Commissioner Camargo. Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, I know that you're very methodical and I know that you're sort of a process person. So I know that you're thinking what's at stake right now in terms of the next few days in the regulatory situation. This is an awkward moment that we're all in. There's a pink elephant in the room and
Boom. Let's just stop it right there. This is an awkward moment. There's a pink elephant in the room. I was trying to figure out what the hell she was talking about, what she meant. This is how I learn things. I don't learn things from Shannon O'Brien. I learn things from kind of, mediocre minds like Nerys Camargo, her statements in public. What is a pink elephant? Well, pink elephant, let's bring it up, actually. Let's bring this up. Does anyone want to know what a pink elephant is? Let's bring up the pink elephant. The pink elephant. The Pink Elephant, a practical guide to creating an anti-racist organization. Wow. Did Nerys Camargo, who is teaming up with the attorney, it seems like, and Ava Concepcion just let out something about racism is the issue here? Who brought up race? Race hadn't been brought up in this entire meeting, and the entire discussion, race hasn't been brought up. Gee, I wonder how you can get rid of Shannon O'Brien, Sean Collins. Nerys Camargo seems to know about it. Ava Concepcion said she didn't know anything about this. Didn't know what the allegations are against Shannon O'Brien, but you know who I think knows? The pink elephant lady. The pink elephant lady. The pink elephant lady. Nerys Camargo. Let's play that again. I want to play that again. So people, you got to listen closely. People wonder how I know stuff. I listen. I look for stuff. I don't just look for what I think. I don't just like say, oh, she worked for them. She must still have, she must have stock, even though she declared she doesn't have stock. See, that's not proof. This is proof right here. This is called a first-hand documentation. She just told us something that nobody knew about. But I knew, and I knew that she just tipped it off. This will answer your question, Eric. Eric was asking me earlier. I don't have to talk to Shannon O'Brien to know what's going on. All I need to do is watch these fools and see what they're doing. The Pink Elephant, a practical guide to creating an anti-racist organization. Well, how about the, I don't know, let's just make one up. The Black Elephant, a practical guide to creating a non-corrupt organization. Where's that book? When do you disclose, Nerys Camargo, that you've been campaigning? It's so obvious. You've been campaigning to replace Shannon O'Brien and shove her out, you and Ava Concepcion, because you thought that a black woman deserved that chair. And I was actually supportive of that early on. But I don't support your character. I don't support who you are and what you're doing here. And I think you know a lot more about the coup of Shannon O'Brien to get how Shannon O'Brien got removed. I think you know a lot about it. I think you just tipped everyone off that you know. And you didn't mean to say that, did you? Did you, Nerys? No, I will say about Ava. Ava's smart. Ava Concepcion. There's a reason why they picked her to be chair. She is a smart lady. Nerys, not so much. If I was Shannon O'Brien, I'd be listening to this. Maybe, maybe some lawsuits happening here.
Right? It's awkward. And it's also awkward that we have to have this conversation in public, that we can't go into executive session, and that we're at where we're at. But the reality of this, and I think
the reality is the pink elephant. Let's hear about that pink elephant.
I would ask if you would consider this designation of chair just being for this regulatory review process, because we don't know what might happen
so let me ask
by
you
the end of the week
Yeah.
or next week. Or
I hear you, Commissioner Stebbins, and I know you. I'm sorry, Commissioner Camargo. Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, I know that you're very methodical, and I know that you're sort of a process person. So I know that you're thinking what's at stake right now in terms of the next few days in the regulatory situation. This is an awkward moment that we're all in. There's a pink elephant in the room, and right.
Ha 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 ha! Pink elephant! Ha 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 ha! Larice, you're.
So let me ask
By
you.
the end of the week,
Yeah.
or next week, or.
I hear you, Commissioner Stebbins, and I know you. I'm sorry, Commissioner Camargo. Yeah, thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, I know that you're very methodical, and I know that you're sort of a process person. So I know that you're thinking what's at stake right now in terms of the next few days in the regulatory situation. This is an awkward moment that we're all in. There's a pink elephant in the room, and right.
I'm funny. I'm funny, Larice.
And it's also awkward that we have to have this conversation in public, that we can't go into executive session, and that we're at where we're at. But the reality of this, and I think you all know this, whether we're a little fuzzled, or shaken up a little bit right now, we need to be able to govern ourselves, right?
We need to be able to govern ourselves. Larice, you're so full of shit. Oh my God.
We've been here. We've been doing the work for the last 2.5.
It's so funny. Who brought up governance? We did. We started talking about governance. The lack of governance with the Cannabis Control Commission, because Sean Collins doesn't answer to the chairperson. Sean Collins answers to 5 people who are all basically brand new compared to him. And all he has to do is divide them. And they have existing fault lines because Nerese and Ava wanted O'Brien's job. This is obvious, people.
Almost 3 years. We have our differences. We don't always see eye to eye.
We don't always see eye to eye. We have our differences. That's why we backstab people and take them down. Like Nerese and Ava have been trying to do to Shannon O'Brien before she even started. See, they did the same thing that Caleb did tonight, which I'm kind of aggravated with Caleb, to be honest with you, because he didn't respect the show and the fact that I was just saying, hey, dude, you got to have some backup. And that's exactly what Ava and Nerese did to O'Brien. They made a scandal out of something that wasn't a scandal, about her ownership of a company that she gave up ownership. People give up ownership of these dispensaries all the time because they're not worth shit until you actually get to open. People give it up all the time. O'Brien gave up her ownership, whatever ownership she had. And these two tried to use that to take O'Brien out of the Cannabis Control Commission with no proof that she still had any ownership. They tried to make it seem like that, just like Caleb did tonight, which, I expect, maybe I shouldn't expect more from Caleb than these commissioners, but I thought Caleb was on the up and up. Like, I thought Caleb could handle our discussion tonight. I didn't think Caleb needed to talk over me and not let me speak, but that's what happened. And I will listen back to see, maybe it was me. Maybe I talked over him too much, but I don't think I did. I think I was just sticking up for the integrity of this show, to stick to facts. And that's what these two jokers did to O'Brien. And they call it the pink elephant. And it's funny. It's funny to Nerese.
And sometimes we go at it and we bicker, and it's all good and it's all love.
It's not all
at
good.
the end of the day.
It's not all good because you've got a suspended chair, and we think we know why, right, Nerese? It's the pink elephant in the room.
Right. We're at a moment right now where we need to govern ourselves. We're grown people, very high level professionals who know what's at stake right now.
High level professionals. I don't think you're high level professionals, especially Camargo. I do not think Camargo is a high level professional. No, I do not. Not at all. And Bruce Stebbins, 10 years as a commissioner, I think whatever professional skills he has probably. The best one in this whole meeting to me was Kimberly Roy, and she totally got shut down. I'd say the second strongest was Ava, who's going to be the new chairwoman. She's definitely formidable, definitely smart, but I don't trust her. And I think that she is a little dupe, she's just going to do whatever Sean Collins wants because he put her in power.
I understand where you're coming from and I respect it. I also don't know what's going to happen down the line. I feel confident whether this regulatory process for the next 3 days or next week, I feel confident that my motion for Commissioner Concepcion can handle that and it can walk us through what the next 7 to 10 days may look like of the commission. So, I mean, you and I have a conversation pending on Friday around social consumption. We're eager to get back to social consumption, right? And to really to work and start putting those regs together. You know, there's the delivery and the courier stuff that has to come up. You are working on micro businesses. There's so much at stake at this commission. And so I hear you and I understand why you would like me to amend my motion. I also feel that for us right now to continue to move forward and really just govern ourselves as I think we can, the 4 of us here, even though we're at a lock right now, I think we can. So for that reason, Commissioner Stebbins, I'm not gonna amend my motion. And if we need to come back to it later on, we can, but for purposes of today, my motion today, it stands.
Sure. I believe this is ad hoc. This is ultra virus. You're creating policy and law as you go along. I was appointed secretary unanimously by this body. It was also unanimously agreed upon that in the absence of a chair, the secretary would chair the meetings. This has been done 6 times in the absence of a chair with no objection. And today we have objection. Why is that, Commissioner Camargo?
I don't think I need to sit here and explain why, Commissioner Roy. I have a motion on the table. I think I've said my discussion as to why. And
I don't think I need to explain why. That should be that is the motto of Nerys Camargo. I don't think I should have to explain why. Should be her that is her MO.
I'm happy to take a vote.
For the record, though, I was asked why I was reading heightened code of ethics. So I was asked. So for the record, I'm curious, as this has been done 6 previous times. It was agreed upon. I was voted on unanimously. It was agreed upon unanimously in the absence of a chair. The appointed secretary would chair the meetings. And now what is the objection today? This has been done 6 times.
You're asking me personally.
I'm asking you as a commissioner.
Yeah, no, I'm saying as a commissioner, yeah, but you're asking me. The question is to
Commissioner Camargo, because it's your motion,
Yeah, thank you. So I feel like I've already said my part.
but it doesn't answer the question. Why the objection today, not 6 times prior?
Let me finish. Commissioner Roy, I know
I think I said my part. I said nothing.
I know where you're at. I see where you're at.
I know where you're at. Look at I swear to God, this lady took some kind of sales course. I've taken them all, and she sucks at it. Like, she's not good. She is. I know where you're at. Like, that is just no. You don't know where she's at. She's calling your ass out. She's asking you to explain because you have no ethics. You won't explain it. We know why. There's an agenda here, Nerys.
Right now.
Where is that?
That we're having this discussion around the chair. So I understand what you're saying. I understand what you've said. You were asked as to why you were reading that on the record. I didn't ask you that. It's okay that it was asked. I feel like I've already said what I said. I don't have to sit here and explain myself.
I don't need to explain myself. Listen, who talks like that? I don't need to explain myself. When you're a cannabis control commissioner, that should not come out of your mouth ever. She said that twice now. These people are unaccountable. They think they're above board. They think that whatever they do is gonna be fine. They can do whatever they want. Because if you don't go along with it, you're racist.
But I will say, since you're asking, Commissioner Roy, like I said before, I understand what you're saying. We've had conversation. I know what you're saying in terms of the chair piece, but we haven't voted on it. And we're having a public discussion today. Yes, you were voted as secretary. I was voted as treasurer. So I get it. But we're having a public discussion today around this process. I'm not going to repeat what I said. It's already on the record. It's already there. I think to move forward, again, it's my motion. And to move forward, I just think, and I appreciate you for having what you've.
It's my motion. Ha ha ha. It's always about ownership with them. It's my motion. It's not, it's, I don't know. I hear it over and over again in these two.
Done. I told you this at the last meeting that we ran. You did a great job. For the purposes of us moving forward and what this commission needs at the moment, to get through the regulatory work and beyond, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 7 to 10 days. I'm just saying that as a thing. I feel fully confident that my motion around Commissioner Concepcion being the acting chair is valid. I don't want to sit here and go through your accolades or dismiss any of your work because I respect you. But at this moment, Commissioner Roy, I'm not supportive and my motion stands. So.
Point of inquiry. We had this, it was voted on unanimously. This has been the policy. There is precedent. This flies in the face of statute and precedent. And there was no answer on why no objection 6 times previously, but objection, there was no clarification around that.
Commissioner Roy, listen, you know this. I know what's happening right now. Like, we're going through this whole process. We all know that we have the power and the authority as a body, and you all know this. And we could take a pause and ask legal, but we have the power and the authority to nominate or designate an acting chair. At the end of the day, it's in the statute. We have our legal team here. They're happy to read it. So I know we can come up with everything here. The reality is, Commissioner Roy, your argument right now doesn't stand, because I get it that you've been selected as a secretary, but at any moment at any time, we have the power and the authority to be able to nominate an acting chair for whatever situation. This is a different situation that we're in today. And I know it's very difficult, but the law stands. And I don't know if legal has any comment or anything like that, but to your, I can sit here and keep going back and forth with you, but we have the power and the authority. And
So
today,
for
one of the things
precedent,
that we can exercise that power and authority in order to move on, because we have a lot of work to do.
exactly was why I wanted to rule it out of order, because we have a lot of work to do. For the people sitting here, for the people watching, there's people worried about how they're going to pay their bills. There's people worried about how they're going to keep their employees employed. And instead of an internal struggle being played out in public, we should move it to the end of the day so we could get to the business of hand. But since that didn't happen. Okay, so has this happened before? Let's talk about precedent. Well, this is what we received.
I think our Rebecca Lopez Enforcement Council.
I know.
Go ahead. I don't have a chair right now. Go ahead, Rebecca.
No, we do have a chair. I opened the meeting. I have the gavel right now.
See, that was super rude. We don't have a chair right now, she said. Like, it's pretty obvious that someone was the chair to open the meeting. You're now voting to remove them and replace them with Ava. She made that statement. That just plain rude.
I have the gavel right.
But you're not the chair.
I have the gavel.
You're not the chair. I am the chair. It's unbelievable.
Commissioner Roy, then I'll recognize,
Go ahead, Commissioner Roy.
yes, thank you. So has this happened before? Sort of. While the commission has not voted on an acting chair previously, Massachusetts Gaming, in the absence of a chair, moved to designate an acting chair. So there's sort of, that's the answer. Oh, okay, so Councilor Lopez, thank you.
I just wanted to ask a question, because actually both of you just raised a very important point about the long road ahead, right, that we have in terms of our regulatory work. And I know everyone here is very committed to that. I guess my question is, and perhaps this is a question for legal, is there a risk that if we do not appoint an acting chair consistent with the statute, given the absence of a chair right now, could that be a procedural defect that could undermine the validity of the regulatory work we attempt to do for the remainder of the meeting? Because that would be my primary concern.
Yes, thank you, Councilor Lopez. Yes, I would suggest that it would open the commission up to risk of challenge.
Commissioner Roy. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a comment?
Excuse me.
No, I was just going to follow up and thank you, Attorney Carter. I do appreciate that. So with that said, I would advise that this be a matter that we resolve before we get to the remainder of the conversation, only to ensure that we are protecting all of that work, and not exposing it in that way. So, respectfully.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins?
Thank you. And because it's been brought up, and I wear Commissioner Camargo's tag as the professional commissioner, which is a little frightening, but just
think?
to offer some
You
comparison.
think, Bruce? Maybe it's
Some
time to get a new
review
job, buddy.
The example that's been alluded to with respect to the Mass Gaming Commission. We voted to select a new chair because the chair at the time had stepped down. We're in a little bit of a different pickle right now because the chair has not stepped down or resigned. I would suggest, and I'll be upfront about this. I will probably vote against this motion, but subsequent to that, I would like to make a new motion, which would be to appoint Commissioner Concepcion as acting chair for the purpose of conducting these regulatory hearings.
Commissioner Roy, if I may.
Commissioner Camargo.
So Commissioner Stebbins, what I hear,
I'm going to skip ahead to the end.
Concepcion
You know
is-
what's going to happen here.
I will second the motion and I'll explain why I'm seconding the motion.
Sure.
We have work to do.
Yeah.
We cannot get hung up on this. I don't want this to be the focus today. That was never.
Wait. So they have work to do. They just spent 25 minutes on this. Her and her friend instigated it. They don't want it to be the focus, but it is now the focus. I mean, you should have done it then, Ava. You obviously really wanted to be the chairperson. I hope it was worth it.
The intention. So second.
I agree.
Okay. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Concepcion.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy. Aye. Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Four in favor, 0 opposed.
Commissioner Roy, may I ask for a 5-minute recess before we move on?
Could I have a motion for a 5-minute recess, Commissioner Camargo?
I have clarity.
It's so funny too. I mean, Camargo is so clueless. Before she wasn't recognized, like, maybe it was Ava. She wasn't recognizing that who the chair was, Roy. Now she's asking Roy to schedule a 5-minute recess, but they just voted for Ava to be the chairperson. I mean, I don't think Camargo really knows what's going on.
So does this motion move and now the meeting is handed over
Yeah,
to me
that's
for
what it means.
responsibilities?
That's correct, Madam.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
thank you.
Commissioner, Roy, did you want to restate the motion and the vote? Do you need to or no? Okay, all right.
So Commissioner Camargo, do you have a motion for us to take a brief recess?
There we go.
for-
Ava figured out. I am now the chair of the commission. It's not up to the other woman anymore. Ava, you're speaking to me, the one that you just voted in. Oh, it's hilarious. Oh. All right, I'm out of here. This is it for tonight. I will see you all. I don't know when. Maybe I won't do any more cannabis shows. I've just had enough. Had enough of the bullshit and the drama too. Like tonight's show. We'll see everyone real soon. Mike Crawford, Young Jerks. Have a good night, people.